Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, the weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. You good? Alright, yeah, she good. So, as you can probably tell from the lack of videos from the last week, this week wasn't top of my game either. I'm making sure to just take time to deal with some mental health issues. I've had a lot of things going on, and I'm not quite prepared to talk about what's been going on with me over the past couple of weeks. Nothing major, nothing bad, but just things that just life bringing you down. You know what I'm saying? So that's been my top priority over the past couple of weeks, has been making sure I take care of what's up here. And that's meant a lot of Pokemon and some Final Fantasy XIV, Lost Ark, Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster, Elden Ring, Chocobo GP, Triangle Strategy, Stranger Paradise, all coming up. Things I'm super excited about and things that I'm going to be definitely using just to lift my spirits up a little bit. But like I said, when I'm ready to talk about those things, I'll let you know. But right now, I want to answer some questions, and I'm sure you want me to answer some questions. So let's get right to that. Anyway, thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon. They don't get anything really out of this. You know, they get to support the channel, but all my content's available here for free. So thank you to those people for supporting over there. Thank you to our patrons of Darkness, Khuja, Cross on Jenova, and Kurenai Oni, who've gone above and beyond. And let's check out the questions. All right, number one, hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. So happy. Hope your week is starting off great. Yo, if you see the shiny hunting clip I just had at some point, oh man, I don't know. You know what? I guess I can't really see that. Doesn't mean the week's starting off not great, but give me 2 or 3 days and I'll know if my week is starting off great or not. Give me that amount of time. With Endwalker's release, we've seen the removal of dots from Summoner and diminished importance on Bard. Do you think we'll ever see a dot caster replace them? No, I think they're straight up done with the dot identity forever. I genuinely don't think they're going to bring back another job that uses it. I would love to. I love the dot identity. I like it when it's done well. I played in Affliction Lock and WoW, and I've played other sorts of dot jobs in other MMOs in the time that I've dabbled with them. I think they're done with it, personally. I don't want them to be, but that's all there is to it. I just think they're done with it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy. I hope that everything is going well for you. Hope the same for you. If Tataru and Kryl were to have a brawl, who do you think would come out on top? Oh, that's easy. That's Tataru. That doesn't... Kryl is just... She's smart, but she is useless. Maybe they'll make her useful. They said she's going to be a lot more front and center in the story after Endwalker, or after 6.0, I should say. So we'll hopefully be getting to see a tougher side of her. But as it stands right now, she's worthless in terms of a fight. Before I take this question, I'm aware Tataru's not much better, but I have more faith in her than Kryl. That's all I'm saying. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. How you doing this week? Like I said, give me a couple days. I'll be clearing P4S later this week. Nice. And would be an unpopular opinion. Say it's my least favorite fight. Oh. No, I mean, it's an opinion. Who really cares if it's a popular opinion or not? Who cares, right? I know people who don't like P3S. I know people who say it's the best fight. I know people who don't like P1S or P2S. Other people think it's great. That's what opinions are for. Everyone has their own taste. I love P4S. I love the aesthetic. I love the more puzzling natures. But I will say this. If you did not pug P4S week 1, I think your appreciation of it goes down. Because one of the magics of it is solving it really early on, or getting to learn it really early on, before there's really answers about how everything needs to go. While it's nice to be kind of involved in strategies evolving, it's not the same. So I think that actually you just clearing it coming up soon will actually contribute to why you feel that way. The only thing I genuinely dislike doing about it, or the thing I genuinely don't like, is how difficult it is to move the boss as a tank. It's awful. But when you're 4, 5, 6 weeks into a raid tier, things like the DPS check, they should be lenient, because you should have tome weapons, you should have a bunch of upgraded gear, and it being the first raid tier of the expansion, it's always a little bit easier of a DPS check, even if some people might not agree with that after Titan. It just is factually true. They tell us this. So, yeah, that's, again, I could go on and on about that, but there's a number of reasons why you'd feel that way. But at the end of the day, it's your opinion. So who cares? That's what an opinion is for. It's a thought. It's an expression that you can think for yourself. And that's most of the time not a bad thing. Depends on the opinion. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello. Hi. Hope you're doing well. You too. Do you think at some point in the future Square would consider adding Explore mode to Alliance raids? Oh, they've already been asked about this. They've said they would like to do it with everything. Whether or not they do or when they do it, another question. But yeah, I think they'll do it at some point. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hi there, Haps. Hope you're doing fine. Same to you. I have a question. I want to farm ether pool grips for getting the weapons for POTD. What's the fastest, more efficient way? I can't answer that, but I know who can. Go to YouTube and look up Angelus Demonus. He actually has a guide specifically on farming ether pool grips. Realistically, my quick hand advice, just spam 51 to 100. Not even 51 to 60, 51 to 100 over and over. Once you start getting close to the top, start going past floor 100. Honestly, if you could just get a group together and run 51 to 200, once you have a bunch, then good, great. But that's about it. But he has an actual dedicated video on it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Laliho. Happy OG. OG-san. Happy OG-san. Hope you're doing well. Same to you. Question, do you think that removing melee positionals will encourage melee DPS to greed less? No. The number one thing that causes melees to greed is not positionals. It is strictly uptime on the boss. Any mechanic that encourages people to try to stay in range of the boss, that tries to encourage people to leave the boss while they are trying to DPS it, they're going to try to stay in range as long as possible or do as little movement out of the boss's range as possible so that they can either, hit a GCD, dodge, and then go back without missing one or not miss one at all. That's the number one thing that gets people. Positionals don't discourage that, and that is the number one killer for melee greed. So no, I don't think it would. Oh boy, I clicked read more, and this one is a long one. So it looks like they threw the question at the beginning and then kind of elaborated on it. So I've already kind of looked through the big chunk. So hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Mr. Happy, longtime watcher, first time commenter. Welcome. And sorry, but I'm probably not going to scroll down and read the whole thing. I was wondering if you could break down how to evaluate a healer in 14. Meaning, do you judge them by their DPS or their HPS healing parse? Okay, I'll tell you right now, the healing parse, while not worthless, not worth a whole lot in Final Fantasy 14. Because you need both of those things to be on point. DPS is a gauge of most of the time of how well your HPS and healing is being managed. Now, not always the case. Sometimes healers just get lazy and they try to throw more work onto the other healer. So what you generally want to be looking at are a number of things. One, DPS. If you are a healer who is not comfortable DPSing, in endgame raids, it's going to become a problem. In generic dungeons or MSQ, like, of course, you'll hit the bosses during MSQ, like, solo instances and whatnot. But, like, if you are uncomfortable DPSing at all, that is the number one thing you need to improve. Now, by improving your DPS, you are supposed to subsequently learn how to properly manage the amount of healing you do need. Gauge what fully heals this, how much time do I have before the next AoE? And that's when HPS comes into play. Now, the big thing you're looking at is not necessarily your HPS, but you are looking at overhealing. Because the lower your overhealing is, odds are the more efficiently you are using your actual healing tools. Again, not a one-to-one. Every fight's going to be different because some fights almost require overhealing. So then it's about comparing your overhealing to other healers who are being top-ranked healers. That all of those things kind of play into one another instead of all being one thing. And that's the big thing. You cannot look at one metric. If somebody has the top parse in the DPS, but you notice they didn't have to cast a single heal the whole fight, then you have to disregard that person. I generally recommend studying on FF logs healers that are between 80 and 95. The higher you get, the less reliable it sometimes is. So I like to hover in that middle range where you're seeing where the upper echelon is, but not where the cream of the crop is really performing, because that can be a question mark of like critical hit rate or direct hit rate RNG, or having kind of being catered to. So you have to be able to recognize when that's happening, and that just takes game knowledge to be able to recognize it. So making sure that they're not missing casts, that their uptime is high, making sure they're not going long periods of time, making sure they're not just wasting heals for no reason. But those are the first two things I'd look at: the DPS, and then see how it's achieved. Make sure they're not overhealing, make sure their HPS is, about on par with other people. And those are the things you want to be looking for. But just HPS on its own is not an important metric, especially compared to your DPS. There was a question that didn't say hello, by the way, that just asked if they'll ever merge Cure 1 and Cure 2. Honestly, I'm amazed they haven't done it at this point already. If they haven't done it by now, I have no faith they'll ever do it, but I mean, they'll probably do it at some point, but I just wanted to make that a quick lightning round question. Hey, Marie. Hey, Haps. Hope everything is going well. Cats behaving. Right now they are. Cool. My question pertains to Savage. First tier I cleared within a month, mainly wondering what you thought of the odd buff times this tier with a lot of 230, 430 windows end up lining up with pots. Well, I don't remember that being a thing in older raids. No, it's a thing in a lot of raids. It's just that if you haven't been clearing at cutting edge times, you probably don't notice it as much. If you're doing Party Finder or a not super serious static, it does not come up in discussion a lot. What's awkward about this tier is that they changed all the timings to be super consistent and then started dropping mechanics on those exact timers, which means they knew they were messing with us this time. Before, it was kind of like, man, that's really inconvenient. Now it's like, why? Why would you do this right here? So here's the thing. Those timers are okay. This sounds like you're talking about P4S in all honesty. But again, it does largely depend on kill speed. Now, if you look at enrage speed, the way you have to plan out your buffs is different than what your team's actual kill speed will be. So you might have to do things that are more wonky the shorter the kill speeds actually end up being. So this is all very normal stuff from an end game perspective. What's not normal is how inline our raid buffs are this expansion, which leads it to being wonkier than it normally would be, which is, I'm curious to see if they make any adjustments around this kind of happening, or if this is just, I guess, a collateral damage of the changes for the sake of the rest of the community. I don't know. All right, next one. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey, Happy, how's your week been treating you? Give me a couple more days. We'll see. After 5 days of constant pug stress, cleared P3S. Nice. And 20 minutes for a reset. Oh my goodness. I don't want to deal with that stress. It was a let's pull once more for that last pull magic because a player wasn't happy with their performance and ready to quit. Ended up making the clear that much sweeter. Nice. Glad to hear it. Those are good stories. We all hear horror stories, but I want to know what's your best story from playing in the Party Finder. Okay, I do have one, but it's actually not the Party Finder. It is a very old YouTube video I did on the Duty Finder. So I had a series called, it was just Let's Play Final Fantasy XIV. I made a whole nother character. I played on controller and I played a healer, and it was just supposed to be kind of like a general experience of what players should expect going through the game. You know, I would get to a new dungeon, talk about little tricks you could do that help out, or, you know, showcase healing, or if I had a tank that was underperforming or overperforming, I'd talk about things they could improve on, or DPS that were doing things not. It was just a constant analysis of the people I was being matched up with. And at one point I decided I was going to do some extreme trials and some coil. So this was, again, all the way back in A Realm Reborn. So what I ended up doing is I duty findered Titan, Garuda, and Ifrit Extreme, and I beat all three of them in the Duty Finder. That was cool. Then I decided to go check out Coil, and I think I jumped right into turn 5 of the Binding Coil after Titan Extreme. And what I ended up doing was, and that group ended up clearing turn 5. Now, what was crazy is the tank went in having literally never tanked in Final Fantasy XIV, having never tanked in an MMO before. And he didn't know how to use his cooldowns, he didn't know how to tank swap. It's like, if I tell you that, that sounds like a horror story. What makes it a good story is by the end of that instance, not only had we cleared, but he knew how to do all those things. Completely receptive, picked up everything, moved the boss properly, took care of the ads properly, did the mechanics properly. And that, to this day, is still one of the best experiences I've ever had in the Duty Finder. And there is a YouTube video of me showing that journey already. So you can even watch that experience. Turn 5 in the Duty Finder, Let's Play Final Fantasy XIV. I later had that tank show up to a live stream, like a year later. Said he was the tank from that turn 5 video, and that he had been doing like raids and how he was like super into it. Now he was an Omni tank, and he actually really appreciated that video, and he was so super glad that he like a longtime community member was so impressed with him and so encouraging. That tank, I don't know what that tank's up to now, but that's definitely the best like rando party story that I have, and I don't know if anything's gonna replace that. Hashtag Mrhappy Mondays. Hey Haps, hope everything is okay. Couple more days. As a summoner main since Heaven's Word, I've had to deal with all the identity changes of summoner. Endwalker has ripped the thrill and fun factor for a lot of summoner mains. Still summoner main for Savage here, but I've not been enjoying the simplicity. Class that was once so busy focusing on dot refreshing and trance timings monitoring for the rune stacks now become a class that is a simple loop. What could your ideas be that would make the class more thrilling? I'm okay with it. I mean, I've wanted them to move to a more summoner focused. I didn't think they'd make the gameplay loop as simple. Like, I was always like, oh, you know, it'd be cool if it was like bard songs where you'd go into a Garuda stance and then a Titan stance and then an Ifrit stance and then a Bahamut stance. And then like I've said they pretty much did that, but they did it in a way where it's very, very simple. It's like overly simple. So, I think that it almost feels like they set it up so that they can add things to it. And I won't be surprised if we see that sooner rather than later, as in seeing it in 6.x instead of in 7.0 and onward. But that's a big question mark. A lot of it just needs to do with what being in Garuda, Ifrit, or Titan really means. You know, do those need to be super short phases that you pop a few abilities and it's all the same button that changes? Or should it be when you finish Bahamut stance, you have to commit to one of them? You can commit to any one of them, but you're committing to them for a specific reason. So for Garuda, for example, maybe that's committing to your AoE. So, you know, you have abilities that allow you to, you know, do more area damage or Ifrit single target damage, and giving them a bunch of skills based on that, more than 2. And then making it so that you can't adjust from that. Like, once you've committed to Titan, once you've committed to Ifrit, if you decide to commit to another one, you can't go back to Ifrit until the next time you get to Phoenix. That way, there's a little bit more thinking about optimizing in a specific part. Maybe there needs to be more, maybe one has more mobility, maybe one has more damage, maybe one is a little bit safer. For example, maybe you pop Bahamut, and then there's a downtime phase. So you go into Titan phase to help out with that. And I don't know, like things like that could add more complexity, but they could also just feel exactly the same as it does now, just with one less decision to be made, which would then be even less exciting. So it's just about the directions that you go. Because I agree it's a little overly simple right now, but I do love the fact that actually summoning is the core identity. So I'd like to see them move forward with that, but expand upon it, because even by machinist standards, this is a little too basic. I had a couple of questions. One of them was like a Shadowbringers-esque spoiler question. Almost not even really. It's kind of like the most basic of basic things that you'd have to, like, that you could question without spoiling. So one of them was like, are the beast races also like sundered from the original people? And so I don't think we have a definitive answer to that, but I'm willing to bet that they, at the very least, are derivatives of concepts that were made, or at the very least, they're the next evolution of concepts where, you know, the Allagans essentially were doing something similar, but they were bioengineering their concepts instead of using creation magic. So I think there's that, but no, I don't believe the beast tribes are derivative of the original races of Hydaelyn. It's implied enough that it's all from that. The enlightened races are the ones that the spoken races are the ones that come from that. And somebody else asked me one other thing. In fact, I don't want to scroll through any spoilers, so let me make sure on that one. They asked if I'm streaming Tiny Tina's Wonderland. No, after Borderlands 3, I'm probably not touching Borderlands for quite some time, regardless of any whatever. I just don't think I'm super interested in it. Then this one is, how do you clean your keyboard? So I don't clean my keyboard enough, but for my SteelSeries keyboard, first of all, this comes off. At least the bare basics. If you do have a wrist guard of some kind, take that off. Condensed air. I actually have electronic condensed air instead of it being like a formula, you know, like the one that gets really cold when you hold it. It's essentially just like a high intensity electronic air like blower. So use that for the keyboard. I also have, where is the tool? I haven't used it in like a week or so it should be in one of these drawers. I have a little tool that allows me to scrape like dust or cat hair off of the keys, like in case anything gets a little too caked on, because I do get a lot of cat hair on my keyboard. It's probably somewhere on my desk, which is, in terms of my actual desk layout, a bit of a mess right now. But that's a big one for me, because I usually take the keys off as well. So I take the keys off, I go through with that like rubber thing that allows me to take all the cat hair and the debris off. Once I go through that, then I can use the electronic condensed air. And then sometimes I still even use the non-electronic condensed air. I feel like I can get a little bit more intensity on the pressure. And then if it's still like, if it's in a state where it needs the extra cleaning, then there's like solutions, like almost like dry solutions, I believe you can buy And I've had to use like some sort of keyboard cleaning solution in the past for when it goes too long. But I definitely don't clean it as frequently as I should. It's tiring with it. It's like, oh, I just cleaned it. Oh, look, Aloha's hair is already all over. He doesn't even jump up on my desk. There's just cat hair everywhere. This one, not so much, but Aloha's hair gets everywhere. So it just gets frustrating to the point where it's hard to even want to keep on top of it, to be honest. But those are a couple of things that I would do. Definitely take the time to unplug the keyboard, take the keys off, and actually wipe it down. At the very least, do that. All right, so I'm not starting the lightning round itself, but there were a lot of like lightning round qualifying. Somebody even just asking me if I could do this, like lightning rounds in the middle of. And I mean, I've already been doing it, so I guess the answer is yes to that? I don't know. Somebody asking about the nature of Limit Break, something story related, and all I'll say to that without spoiling anything is that it wasn't a true Limit Break. That's it. The person who asked that should understand it wasn't a true Limit Break, which is why ours is better. There you go. Some of y'all understand what I'm talking about there, but otherwise it's not going to be too confusing. Somebody asked me a lot of personal questions. That's definitely not going to happen. Like just tell me everything that could potentially be a security question style question, and that sure as hell ain't happening. Somebody asking for a new race in the future. Honestly, after female Hrothgar, we're probably never going to see another race. So those were all the quick lightning rounders that I had lined up, and then I think this is the one I actually had lined up. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Good day. Howdy, Mr. Happy. Hope your week was better than the last. Give me a couple more days. Since developers can't possibly keep us in the same game year forever, are there any places, zones that we've been to thus far you'd like to see a theoretical X amount of time future version? Honestly, the hard mode dungeons were kind of just the only version of that I really like to see. I feel like anything they want to move forward in time, they do via instancing. Like we see that with the Dravanian hinterlands. We see that with Mordona and Idleshire and the restoration efforts. So at this point, Garlemald would be like a nice prime one, but that doesn't really move us forward in time because of the whole theory of us being in an approximate 1 year time bubble. On top of the fact that we officially know that it is still the same year in game currently and in Endwalker as it was in A Realm Reborn. We know that because of dialogue that's actually in the game currently that's new. So who knows, but as far as I'm concerned, using instancing or even like short time frame skips to get us those points is all I expect. But hard mode dungeons are still kind of like the pinnacle of this is what has happened since. And as much as I don't want more dungeons in the game, that is the kind of idea that I'd like to see them use. It may be in other things going forward. Yeah, so right before I saw this question, I read a comment that said, why would they buff Dancer? It's performing better than red mages and summoners at the highest level of play. No. So the actual question that I'm going to answer right here, hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Good day to you, my good sir. Hope your day is going well. I have a follow-up question to that cover question that you answered. I'm new to tanking, never tanked in an MMO before, but why would a paladin use cover to take 2 tank busters? Wouldn't that outright kill the paladin? I was under the impression that your mitigation and Sheltron do not work on covered damage. It's something they would need to pop hollow ground to survive. So you are correct. This is not what you would be using cover for. We're not specifically referring to taking 2 back-to-back tank busters. We're talking about using it in a creative manner to make those mechanics easier. So one example would be E9S, an encounter from Shadowbringers where the boss does a 2-hit tank buster. The first hit gives the player a magic vulnerability up, and the second hit actually does the damage. So what you'd often see paladins do is one of 2 things. They could cover the main tank to take the magic vuln and then break the tether by moving out of range so that the tank themselves could just take the buster. You don't need to do a tank swap. You can make sure the positioning is consistent the entire fight. You could do it the other way around and let the tank actually take the magic vuln, and then you would take the cover damage for them. Though I believe, if memory's not mistaken, that would be the incorrect process of orders. Hollow ground wouldn't work on something like that. The other option, of course, would be to be the paladin and hollow ground it yourself, but paladins weren't very popular main tanks. It was definitely a weakness of theirs in Shadowbringers, so you definitely didn't see that all too often. Now, that being said, there are other ways that you can do 2-hit tank busters. A great example would be P4S. There is a Tank Buster that will hit the first person on aggro with a Tank Buster plus a bleed. And then the second hit will also hit the second on aggro with a Tank Buster and a bleed. Now, if you are the Paladin main tank, or, quite frankly, the Paladin off tank, you could choose to take both of those hits. While you may not necessarily be able to hallowed ground them because of the way cover works, you could pop all of your cooldowns so the other tank doesn't need to use any, and you could take both hits. That way the bleed is all on one person, the damage is all on one person, and the other tank is completely free to deal with the future mechanics that you now no longer have the resources to deal with. Again, allows for consistency, prevents tank swaps, prevents bosses turning. That's a big thing because the boss does turn, so most of the time both tanks just stand on top of each other. But it just has a few minor advantages, things you do not need to take advantage of, but are nice little techs that you can make use of if it is actually beneficial to the encounter. So sometimes not tank swapping is just easier on groups. It's easier on positioning. It's easier on remembering where you belong versus where the off tank belongs. And that's what it's used for. So that's it. There's just situations like that. But you wouldn't want to deliberately take two tank busters, the first one of which is supposed to weaken you, and the second one, which if you do not swap is supposed to kill you. That would, if you took both of those hits, it would be a problem. So I had a couple lightning rounds between the last one and this one. One of them was, how do you find good practice and clear parties in the party finder? It's like throwing a dart at a dartboard. You hope your aim is true, and fingers crossed a little bit of skill, little bit of praying, because you just don't know what the end result is. It's more like a roulette wheel, I suppose, than it is a dartboard. But there's that. And then somebody else was asking me a question about applying some like healer mechanic that I'd never heard of before, so I thought it was a D's nuts joke or something, so I just didn't answer it. So I didn't know. It was a healer was like walling themselves like 5 times because of lack of a proper countdown. Sounds like an Astro, to be honest, but you shouldn't be walling yourself in a normal mode because a countdown wasn't there. It's freaking normal mode, but that has to be an Astro. Maybe they mean Astrodyne or divination or something. I don't know, but yeah, that's all I could think of. That's just dumb. Don't wall if you don't get a countdown in normal mode. Who's tryharding normal mode? Like, tryharding is normally a good thing because it means, like, most of the time someone who's tryharding is just trying and the other people are lazy. No, that's actually tryharding. that's not healthy. If somebody's doing that, don't take them seriously. Now for this question, hashtag Mrhappy Mondays, you doing all right? Didn't even say, at least you asked me if I'm doing all right, but you didn't even say hello. Anyways, what do you look for in a player when building a static? I don't build statics. Quite frankly, if there's anything I've learned from being an MMO player for about 20 years now, it's fuck people. Obviously not everybody, but like being the person who manages the people. By the way, I noticed this wasn't centered and it's bothering me now. Being the one who handles the people is not my strength, because I don't have time for high school man baby bullshit that happens on the internet. I just don't have fucking time for it. So my method would be, if you are causing drama, you have 2 choices. Deal with it or leave, because I'm not going to sit here and play fucking politics between 2 grown-ass people who can't get along on the internet. Just fucking stop. That's why I don't run guilds. That's why I don't run link shells. That's why I just don't. Because the last thing I want to do is log in to just the dumbest shit. And I'm sure all of you could probably name some scenario where you've seen like a guild fall apart or something over the dumbest shit imaginable. So you know what? My advice is either A, don't do it and let someone else do it and don't be an asshole, or B, have a 0 tolerance for bullshit. Like, look for people who are like the right fit for their group. Like, you know, they have similar goals in mind. And if somebody's being an asshole, you tell them they're being a fucking asshole. If there's a tense static moment led to an inevitable breakdown, and when all I asked was what we could fix that was going wrong. Bro, if you can't ask, hey, what's happening? What do we need to do to resolve this? And people can't fucking lose their... Okay, what do we need to do to stop you from dying at X mechanic? I don't know if you're greeting or maybe not understanding. So that's somebody taking it as a personal slight. That's the kind of shit I'm talking about. Now, while you could ask that, it's like, you could try to ask it more generally, like, okay, what could we do to improve that situation? As opposed to saying, what can we do to help you? Because I've been in I had a group in Shadowbringers. We asked someone that, and they just said, nothing, I just need to learn it better, or something like that. And we ended up parting with that person because it was like all 7 of the other people were completely on the same page, and that one person, every single mechanic, was like 3 hours behind. So we just knew that it was like a mistake in like recruitment. And that could be this too. It could be a mistake in recruitment. They could not have the same goals, aspirations, or whatever as the rest of the group, and that is reflecting in their gameplay. But you have to be able to talk frankly. You just have to be, while you definitely want a little bit of tact, you need to be able to talk frankly. Like, why is there a death there? You know, what can we do to resolve that? You know, just talk in general wheeze and not specific people, because that's when shit gets sideways. But it's like, sometimes it just doesn't work out. That's all there is to it. Sometimes people just aren't on the same page. They don't have the same skill level. They don't have the same aspirations. They don't have the same goals. And it leads to things like that. No one's wrong. No one's bad. No one's a bad person. It's just doesn't line up. Doesn't match. People have to accept that. Hashtag Mr. Madge Mondays. There was another question, by the way, that asked me right before this. I was going to lightning around it. I'm just going to scroll up real quick. Will plots be strictly lottery based, right? Oh, they'll be strictly lottery based in 6.1, right? My first question is about Reaper. What is the point of Harvest Moon Solso? They are downtime tools. So generally you save Harvest Moon for when you're going to be forced to take boss downtime. If you know you won't be forced to take boss downtime, then you can use it just in general like buff windows. As long as you're not losing something that's higher value, then you can do that. That's fine. Otherwise, yeah, if there's no boss to target, you want to channel it. And then if you have to leave the boss for one GCD, then you can use it as an efficient GCD downtime tool instead of using Harp. Whether it be instant cast or hard casted, it's still going to be better than using Harp in terms of the overall potency during the downtime. But it's also going to depend on the fight. I also noticed that you said my first question, and this is the only question. So I feel deeply betrayed. All right, while this Q&A has gotten me definitely in a better mood than the rest of the day has, I am going to lightning round the rest of them because there's a lot of questions I'm scrolling past, so it's just, at this point, I might as well just lightning round them. So there's a joke question about why we didn't cover Summoner in our ranged DPS Sage of the Realm. I deserve that. A question asking why Sage has some lower ranges on its healers than the other ones. I honestly don't know why. I can just acknowledge that it does, so I can't offer any insight into that. So I wish I had more to say, but I unfortunately don't because I'm not a healer main. Did you play a new Pokemon? Yes, I played it a lot, and I've gotten a lot of shinies, and it's going pretty good, gotta admit. Let's see, resources for stuff on burst windows. Somebody answered the balance Discord. I also did a video on it. Someone's saying that they'd like to try the new ultimate once it comes out. Do I need the original fights cleared as well? No, you just need to have the most recent raid tier cleared to attempt the new ultimate. In the case of the older ultimates, you need whatever was the relevant raid tier before that. So that would be O4S for Ukab, O8S for Uwu, and E4S for the Epic of Alexander. So you just need those cleared for those old ones, and you need P4S cleared for the new one, plus you're going to want actual gear. You mentioned how the NA Pug rating is much more ineffective, and why do you think NA is so behind? It's just a way of thinking. JP is very much get everyone on the same page, don't change anything, and make sure it's efficient so people can get in, learn, and repeat, and there's no confusion. There's no new strategy popping up. There's no changes. There's no weird stuff people want to do because it's more uptime or it's easier. Just if you learn it and do it, it's the same thing every time. Stop messing with what works. NA is like, here's 6 million different strats and a paste bin with 9 hyperlinks. Also, JP uses macros. They're just more consistent, better players, better culture. It's better. That's the bottom line. It's better. And they use the raid finder for reclears, so getting a party is super easy. They don't have to scout through and read through all the objectives, and there's this party and that party, and that. They all understand. It's just way more efficiently done. So there's that as well. Crafted gear, started side-eyeing. Crafted gear can make a difference right now. 4 bis, 3, and the rest are material. What would overmelded crafted gear really be worth the investment? If you already have a bunch of bis gear, no. That is where you get the advantage going into the raids brand new, or from all the gear you have that's lower or near equal item level that you want to get advantages on with materia melding. If you already have a bunch of near bis gear, the crafted gear is nigh worthless. I wouldn't recommend investing in any of it unless you still have a piece that's like well below 580 and you want to bring that up. Let's see. A few things about the Steam Deck. Let's see about the MSQ. I know they won't do it. Okay, there's just a bunch of comments. See, that's the other thing. Once I notice there's just a ton of comments, that usually means the questions are coming to an end as well. It also means YouTube's algorithm is putting less popular questions or less relevant questions towards the bottom as well. So that's another thing I noticed. Do you think what's it called? What is the most radical change to 14 you'd like to see in 7.0? You don't need radical change. Final Fantasy 14 has thrived on not doing radical change. They're not suddenly going to do that and risk losing it all in 7.0. So the answer is nothing. Should they make changes? Yes, they make changes all the time. But a radical change, no. That's not going to be a good thing. So that's the bottom line. Let's see. Yeah, if you hope you have a better week. Eureka's not dead. Sure. Rehashed old diadem type content. If you think that some of our other stuff is rehashed old diadem content, then you A, haven't done diadem, and B, haven't actually done Eureka or Bozja, because they do, trust me, when you're actually doing them, they do not feel that way for anything as far as I'm concerned. Fate farming. Hey, listen, fates are good. Anyway, let's see. Now it's in an NA creator video. NA brains will have to follow it. Ugh! Nope, abandon your awful raid culture, NA materia players. Also, actual NA folks, stay on Primal and Ether. Already had enough of you flaming sprouts and trials and rage quitting in 2 pulls. Grow up. You know, I read that in an ironic way, but I read the whole thing and I completely agree. Oh, man. Oh, man. Let's see. Yeah, Mercury is in retrograde. It's affecting technology, communication, and travel. Should be over by next week. Oh, my God. Yeah, no, that's, are you talking, in retrograde, are you talking about, Mercury, and, hold on. I don't know what I'm even fucking reading. I'm skipping that. Most jobs in this game are better suited for PvP than PvE. They have completely different skill sets in PvP and PvE. So that doesn't make sense. Well, okay, who are you? Whoever that commented that, how come when you commented a bot with fucking porn replied to you? What are you doing on the internet and then coming to my video and making these smut posts? What's going on here? How is that gonna, I mean, I guess it's not smut, but it's like, whatever. It's the fact that it's there bugs me. I swear to God, if all of these have that, I'm going to lose my mind here at the bottom. A lot of toxicity on OCE. I've seen... Wait, hold on. 2 different people said the exact same thing. No, this has to be... No, there's memes down here. There has to be memes down here. Because 2 different people tweeted the exact same thing. I created an alt on OCE. I've seen more... This has to be a copy pasta that I don't recognize. Or they are the copy pasta. I haven't figured it out, but no, I mean, I know people who are in OCE who are having a great time. It's just NA people don't want to use macros, so fuck them. That's all I got to feel about that. But yeah, those are the last few comments. Going to read in the comment section of the YouTube video below. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and ask her a question for next week's episode of Mondays with Mrhappy. Thanks. Okay, bye. I'm going to see you later. Okay, no, but seriously, thank you for watching. I'll see you all next week. Hopefully next week will be better. And yeah, y'all have a good one. Y'all be good. Take care.